We're here at the Gigabyte suite for Computex 2025 to check out their new gaming monitors. Gigabyte have got at least 6 products I think are super interesting for people, so let's go check them out.
The Harbour Unboxed Computex coverage is brought to you by MSI, Thermal Grizzly, GSkill and Trix. Check out MSI's range of GeForce RTX 50 series graphics cards powered by NVIDIA Ada GPU architecture with advanced ray tracing and DLSS, delivering elite airflow, thermal design, and stunning aesthetics for incredible gaming performance. Included is MSI's unique 7-blade Storm Force fans which boost airflow and reduce noise. The Supreme and Vanguard models include vapor chamber cooling, while the Supreme Liquid features a 360mm radiator. All models provide advanced tuning and monitoring capabilities via the MSI Center and MSI Afterburner. So to learn more about MSI's RTX 50 series, please check the links in the video description. Also supporting our Computex trip this year is Thermal Grizzly and their Duranaut high-performance thermal paste offering extreme long-term stability combined with outstanding thermal conductivity. It's not electrically conductive and won't harden over time, so for more information please check the links in the video description.
The first monitor I want to show off here at the Gigabyte booth is the new MO27 Q28G. What's interesting about this one is this is a brand new WOLED panel from what I would classify as LG's 4th generation of WOLED technology. So Gigabyte here, they're listing this technology as Meta 3.0 WOLED. It's also known as primary RGB tandem WOLED, moving away from some of the MLA stuff that they've done previously. But essentially what this means is a higher brightness spec than we've seen previously. So with LG WOLEDs, typically they've topped out at around 1300 nits for the peak brightness in low window sizes, around that 1%, 2% size. And we see similar to QD-OLED full screen brightness, so around that 250 to 275 nit range. However, this monitor is certified VESA Display HDR 500 spec. Now to meet that spec, it means we're going to need to see at least 300 nits full screen white brightness, for at least for HDR applications. And Gigabyte are also quoting, I believe, 1500 nits of brightness with this particular monitor, so 1500 nits peak brightness, which is going to be, a really awesome experience for people playing games. Just that little bit extra brightness compared to existing WOLED monitors. This is a matte WOLED screen at 280Hz, 27-inch 1440p as well, and they're expecting this to be priced around the $499 US mark, available around July, August, I believe. So that's a very attractive price point for a 1440p WOLED monitor, or even any OLED monitor today. I also was speaking to Gigabyte and they're saying that there are some plans in motion to also introduce glossy WOLED monitors in the future, potentially later this year. They're telling me that, they do expect matte will be a popular option with some gamers. They also obviously offer glossy QD-OLED alternatives as well, but they're exploring the feedback that gamers are providing about glossy WOLED, and hopefully they'll be producing some monitors like that in the future. So Asus doing glossy WOLED as well. Gigabyte will hopefully be joining the party too. So I think this is going to be a great price point monitor. It's got WOLED technology, which does have some advantages that we've seen in things like higher brightness scenes in terms of overall brightness, no panel dimming. I expect all of that to also be the case here. Gigabyte, I believe there's also going to be some sort of black frame insertion mode available on this panel as well, so we'll try and explore that if we do get it in for review. And the nice new Gigabyte M series design they're using for all their OLEDs, I personally really like, with the flat base, metal design, very sturdy, and that's applying to the vast majority of the OLEDs that they're producing at the moment. So really cool to see Gigabyte being one of the first to bring this new LG WOLED monitor technology to the market. So I know OLEDs are all the rage, but when I came to the Gigabyte booth, I made a beeline for this monitor because this, in my opinion, is one of the most compelling low-cost LCDs that I've seen in quite some time. This is the Gigabyte M27 UP. Now, it doesn't do anything especially interesting when it comes to specs. This is very much panel technology we've seen before. 4K IPS LCD at 160Hz, 27-inch size. It is also a dual-mode panel, so it can do 1080p, 320Hz as well. We've seen this sort of thing before. We've tested some monitors in 2024 with this spec. Obviously, the nice new Gigabyte M series design we were talking about here as well. But the killer feature about this is the price point. Gigabyte told me this monitor, 4K 27-inch, is only $299 US. I've never seen that price point before. Typically, we've seen in the past 27-inch 4Ks come down to around $400 if we're lucky, maybe slightly below that $380 sort of range. $300 is 1440p territory. That's what we've gotten in the past from 1440p monitors. To get 4K now at that price point, I think is going to be amazing. So This monitor should be available in the next couple of months. I'm hopefully going to be testing this out as soon as we get back from Computex. So yeah, $300 4K monitors, what a world we're living in. Great to see aggressive price movement. So we saw this at CES for the first time. It's again here at Computex. It's the Gigabyte Aorus FO27 Q5P. So this is their 1440p 500Hz QD-OLED. This is much closer to release now. They're telling me this should be available in the next couple of months, priced, I didn't get a final price, but somewhere around that $900 range that we've seen from Asus MSI monitors. One of the interesting things that they've now been able to finalize is again one of the specs of this product, which is its display HDR 500. So when we looked at the WOLED, that was also VESA display HDR True Black 500 spec. And again, that means 300 nits of full screen brightness is going to be possible with this new 500Hz QD-OLED. They're also telling me the 10% window brightness size is increased from around 450 nits up to 500 nits. So again, a nice little boost there for some of the QD-OLED monitors that should hopefully bring it more in line from what we see on the WOLED side. The peak brightness spec is going to remain around 1000 nits as well. Again, it's a QD-OLED panel. We know all about QD-OLEDs. This is just a 500Hz monitor that should hopefully compete well with those 480Hz WOLEDs that we've seen previously. So once again, we're going to be talking about OLED technology with another compelling panel from Gigabyte, the MO27 Q2A, which is a name I feel like I've already read out at least 3 or 4 times, but I'm sure the combination of letters and numbers is slightly different to their other versions. This is a 1440p 280Hz QD-OLED 27-inch size. So when we were at MSI the other day, they've got basically a very similar version of this monitor, but the MSI model is priced at $600 US. They told me at the time it was $500 US. That turned out to be wrong. It's actually $600, the MSI model. But then we came to Gigabyte, and Gigabyte's model is $500. And they assure me that's the actual legitimate true price. They're not going to change that on us. We won't have to correct the video. $500 1440p 280Hz QD-OLED. So yeah, interesting. Gigabyte are getting very competitive with MSI right out of the gate on this new 280Hz panel. So essentially what we've been told is that Samsung Display are wanting to differentiate around the 240Hz range with their QD-OLED panels. So previously what they've offered is 240Hz, 360Hz, and then the new 500Hz panel coming out at the 1440p resolution. They're now going to be producing this more mid-spec 280Hz panel, which will be slightly more expensive than the 240Hz models, but still a very compelling option for people that are just going to have a slightly higher refresh rate on offer. So this is again very similar spec to what we've seen from 1440p QD-OLED before. We're not expecting any differences in brightness, the design of the sub-pixel layout, any of that's going to be exactly the same, just a new price point, new refresh rate, and this will be coming to market in, I believe, the 3rd quarter of this year. Well, we're back to the LCD side of things to talk about the M27 Q2. So this is a 27-inch 1440p 200Hz IPS LCD with a quantum dot panel. When I was talking to Gigabyte about this monitor, they believe that with the mainstream 1440p segment, that we're going to see the refresh rate creep up a little bit from what we've seen previously to now hit around the 200 Hz mark with panels such as this new M27 Q2. So previously, again, we've sort of gone from 1440p, 144 Hz was the standard, then we went up to 165 Hz, then the latest panels that we've been talking about throughout the last couple of years have been around 180 Hz, and we've seen panels from Gigabyte previously that have had that spec. M27Q has been one of those monitors. Now we're getting up to 200 Hz. In addition to that, with the new quantum dot enhanced panel, we should be seeing higher color gamut coverage. They're still quoting 98% DCI-P3, which is similar to the KSF backlight models, but we should be seeing Rec 2020 coverage go from probably around the 75% mark on the predecessor to up around that 85% mark now that it's quantum dot enhanced. This is not really an HDR monitor. It's still designed to be their sort of entry-level to mid-range 1440p product. They are quoting a price in the $250 to $300 range. I'm not 100% sure how successful that will be because we're seeing 180 Hz, 165 Hz, 1440p monitors now down below $200 US. So I'm not convinced you'd be willing to spend an extra $50 to get quantum dot plus an extra 20 Hz refresh rate. I think this will probably have to come down a little bit in price, but again, that's not a final price. We only got a range here at Computex, so we'll see where that ends up when it's coming to market. Again, this will be available in 2025 in the next couple of months, so keen to check that out and see how it performs. One of the interesting trends I've seen at Computex from Gigabyte and a couple of other monitor vendors now as well is putting smart TV functionality into monitors, which is one of those controversial things where Some people in the comment section say they absolutely do not want any smart functionality in their monitor at all. It should just be a dumb product. Other people really like it because of its app support functionality. This is an interesting one because this is the M27QS. It's a 27-inch 1440p 180Hz IPS LCD. It's got Google TV built in, so it's a smart, what they're calling a smart gaming monitor. I've got the remote control right here, so I believe there must be some sort of sensor here that you'll be able to use with the remote, access all your favorite apps. We're here in Taiwan, so this must be all the local Taiwanese TV stations and that sort of thing. I believe there's also going to be some gaming features built into this operating system, still be crosshairs and that sort of thing that you can utilize if you want to. I think there's a dedicated button on here somewhere for that. But yeah, this is interesting. I feel like with smart monitors and adding Google TV, this makes a lot of sense on HDR monitors because Windows HDR support, especially for streaming apps, isn't always perfect, especially if you want things like Dolby Vision in like Apple TV Plus, Netflix, Amazon Prime. One of the better ways to do that is through smart TV apps. If you try to do that through Windows, it's a nightmare, it's a disaster. HDR just doesn't work very well. So having this built in is great. Steve was telling me earlier he'd like this to watch his beloved Melbourne Demons football team play on KO, which is our streaming service. If you play KO on PC, it's limited to 1080p, but the Google TV app is 4K. KO really should fix that, so maybe KO should get their act together and upgrade the PC streaming experience to 4K, but I'm getting sidetracked here because this will potentially be a great way for Steve to play. Again, not super convinced about its usability in an LCD version that doesn't really support HDR. You know, they're claiming edge lit dimming or, I don't know, display HDR 400 spec, you know, we'll see about that. But if this comes to more OLED products, I feel like smart TV is something that will be available for some people. But again, it's not mandatory or anything. If you're not interested in a smart TV, you know, 1440p 180Hz LCD, Gigabyte has you covered with non-smart versions. So it's not as much like the Samsung thing where if you wanted the OLED G8 for a while, you had to get the smart TV functionality. There was no other option. Gigabyte is just providing you an option with a product like this.
Finally, a big thank you to GSkill and Trikes for helping to make our Computex trip possible this year. GSkill offers an amazing range of DDR5 memory with AMD Expo support, allowing you to get the most out of your Ryzen processor, and we've been using their Trident Z5 Neo memory in our test systems for years now, as we rely on it to get the best results. We've also started using Trikes coolers, and I've got to say the Panorama SE360 Black is one of the best looking AIOs I've ever seen. The quality of the rotatable display is incredible, and as complex as the design appears, it's remarkably quick and easy to install. So for more information, please check the links in the video description.
That's all the cool monitors that we've seen at Computex 2025 from Gigabyte. What I really like about Gigabyte at this particular show is a lot of their options seem to be on the lower cost of the scale. So their 500Hz QD-OLED appears to be one of the cheaper options. They've got a 280Hz QD-OLED. Again, that appears to be pretty cheap. And they're bringing 4K IPS LCDs to some of the cheapest price points I've ever seen. So Gigabyte continue to be at the forefront of value, and it's great that they're reinforcing that here at the show. So again, we've got other monitors unboxed coverage of Computex 2025 right here on the channel. So go check that as well if you're interested. But until the next one, I'm your host Tim, and we'll catch you again on the channel.